Hello, Delano Dyer once again, Christ-like TV Ministries, picking back up with Proverbs chapter 9, and we're going to title this lesson, Two Invitations. So I'm going to start things off by reading the first 6 verses, and this will be titled Wisdom's RSVP. So here we go. Verse 1. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn out her 7 pillars. She has prepared her food. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her maidens. She calls from the tops of the heights of the city. Whoever is naive, let him turn and hear. To him who lacks understanding, she says, Come, eat of my food, and drink of the wine I have mixed. Forsake your folly and live, and proceed in the way of understanding. So we're going to stop right here, and I'm going to just put some notes out there for study and for clarification. Now, notice the trailing theme of wisdom's call presented in the book of Proverbs. We can go back in time, if you will, specifically to chapter 1, verses 20 through 22. And I want you to notice the theme or the pattern that carries on here. Chapter 1, verses 20 through 22, and it reads as follows. Wisdom shouts in the streets. She lifts her voice in the square. At the head of the noisy streets, she cries out. At the entrance, of the gates in the city, she utters her sayings. How long, O naive ones, will you love being simple-minded? And scoffers delight themselves in scoffing, and fools hate knowledge. Also, in Proverbs chapter 8, verses 1 through 3, we read the following. Does not wisdom call, and understanding lift up her voice? On the top of the heights beside the way, where the paths meet, she takes her stand. Beside the gates, at the opening to the city, at the entrance of the door, she cries out. And she cries out what she says in verses 4 on out. So notice there's always an invitation, there's always a call. The question is now, do we accept this call or will we take heed to the call? Now, notice who is invited. We notice in that passage that we read, you have the naive one, that is the one who lacks wisdom, judgment, or experience, or also the one who lacks understanding. Now, the food that wisdom provides is ready to be given, but notice what is stated in verse 6, and we'll go back to that again. It says, Forsake your folly, that is your foolishness, and live, and proceed in the way of understanding. Now that we have these 6 verses, or a little bit better understanding of the 6 verses, let's go through 7 through 12, which I titled this section Wise versus Wasteful Investments. He who corrects a scoffer gets dishonor for himself, and he who reproves a wicked man gets insults for himself. Do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase his learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For by me your days will be multiplied, and years of life will be added to you. If you are wise for yourself, and if you scoff, you alone will bear it. Now, in verse 7, the word scoffer derives from the Hebrew word lutz, one who lacks arrogantly or scorns. This verse mirrors a warning that Jesus gave his disciples. So let's just put a bookmark right here for the time being, and let's go over to Matthew chapter 7 and verse 6. Matthew chapter 7, verse 6. And it reads as follows. Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. So notice what is precious, what is of value. Depending on who you give that to, they're either going to appreciate it, but in this case, they don't appreciate it at all. You don't give what is precious or holy to someone that's acting instinctively like an animal or does not appreciate it because they'll just trample it. They won't take, they don't, they're not going to say thank you. They're not going to regard it. They're just going to act unruly towards you. So in the same way as someone who tries to give wisdom or correction to a person who's acting or being foolish. Also, in Luke chapter 8, verse 10. Let's go to that passage. See what the New Testament shows as well. And we read the following, Luke 8:10. And he, referring to Jesus, said, to you it has been granted to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, but to the rest it is in parables, so that seeing they may not see, and hearing they may not understand. To fear, sorry, I'm so sorry, people. To fear or reverence the Lord is stated again in verse 10, as in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10, just like in Proverbs 1 and 7, 2 and 5, and 8 and 13. Now in verse 12, one who chooses to be wise will still be wiser. However, one who chooses to scoff will get their dues too. So if you become wise, you yourself will become wiser. But if you continue to stay foolish and reject wisdom, well, you'll get what's coming to you as well. Now, since we've established what is wise versus foolish investments, how we invest in ourselves or how we invest in others, which if I haven't emphasized it by the way, if someone does not appreciate sound godly wisdom, you can pray for that person that their eyes could be open for understanding, but if they keep rejecting what is holy and what is sound, at some point you have to stop and just pray that their hearts will be open to receive it. Otherwise, they're just going to trample what is said in the scriptures, what you're trying to relay to them, and they're just going to walk all over it and not regard it with the highest sense of preciousness or honor or value. Now let's go to verses. Let's go to 13. Let's read to the rest. That's going to be what we title Folly's RSVP. So we had Wisdom's RSVP. Now we're going to see the opposite of that, folly. Verse 13. The woman of folly is boisterous. She is naive and knows nothing. She sits at the doorway of her house, on a seat by the high places of the city, calling to those who pass by, who are making their path straight. Whoever is naive, let him turn in here. And to him who lacks understanding, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. Now, in this particular passage of verses, verse 13 once again brings us back to the description of a foolish woman, which is akin to the invitees being described in verse 4. That is, the one who is naive and lacks understanding. However, this woman, the foolish one, calls on those who are seeking to make their path straight, except notice the bait used by the foolish woman in verses 16 and 17. Let's go back and look at that again. Verse 16, whoever is naive, let him turn in here, and to him who lacks understanding, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. So doing things that are not done in the light, but rather done in the dark. Notice again, let's go back to wisdom's RSVP, if you will. She says, starting in verse 4, whoever is naive, let him turn in here. To him who lacks understanding, she says, come eat of my food and drink of the wine I have mixed. Notice she does not say to eat or drink these things in secret. It's out in the open. Forsake your folly, forsake your foolishness, and live, and proceed in the way of understanding. The foolish woman in verses 16 and 17, the one who represents unwise counsel, no. everything's done in secret. In everything is done in secrecy, as if that is the best advice someone can give. And if someone follows this advice, let's look at what it says on the end. Verse 18. But he does not know that the dead are there. The people who are invited by the foolish one, those who go in that direction, they don't know that they're going to a path that leads to death. But he does not know that the dead are there, that our guests are in the depths of Sheol, that is the grave, or where the dead go. And there's a saying that what one doesn't know, well, the saying used to be, what one doesn't know won't hurt them. Well, it's not true. Because what you don't know, what you lack understanding of, and if you follow the wrong way, it can and will kill you if you keep going in that path or in that direction. So I pray that we would choose to make wise investments and decisions. We would take the wisdom that we're invited to pursue, and not the path of the wickedness or the folly or foolishness. Because even though stolen bread and stolen waters is sweet, or I'm sorry, stolen waters is sweet, and bread eaten in secret can be pleasant. In other words, there's a sensual fulfillment that comes with these desires or this pathway. It's temporary. At the end of all that pleasure, no matter how long that may be, death will be there at the end. And then you have to pay a price heftier than what you did in secret, or what you thought you did in secret, which is not really secret to God at all. Everything is open and in the light to Him, whereas we may think we're in the dark. It's not the case. But if it's done in the light, if we're called out of darkness into light, let us stay in that light. So that way, when we do things, we don't have to be ashamed. Actually, we don't need to be a person that has to be ashamed of doing right, of doing what's pleasing to God. And we're going to see that more in chapters 10 and 11 as we go through the Proverbs series a little bit more. And we're going to see how God contrasts the righteous or the upright to the wicked. And it's going to be a recurring theme, but the point of it is to emphasize and put in our minds that the more we follow the path of the righteous, the more, not the more blessings, but the fact that we're doing what's pleasing to God. And I pray that that's where we would want to be, and that is where God desires for us to be. But to not follow His way and to follow the foolishness, it is a guaranteed way of death. It is a guaranteed way of having more strife and pain in our own lives. I mean, this life is trouble in and of itself as it is. But why? I'm sorry. But why add on to more trouble by following the way of the wicked? Get off the path of the wicked and let's get onto the path of the righteous. And I pray if you've made it this far, that I pray that there's something that was said or something that was read in the scriptures that would be edifying and saving to your soul. I pray that if you have not, please share this video with someone that can get more wisdom and edification through the scriptures. And if you haven't already, please, it's free. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next time. And on that note, God bless, and I'm out.
I'm living that Christ life, that right life, that holy life, a God-fearing life, because I want to have eternal life. See, that double life is the wrong life. It brings a lot of strife, then you find yourself living that hell life.